This is the Seahawkers podcast. We are live on a Wednesday night, and I'm Brandon Schultz, and I'm joined by my good buddy Clinton Bonner. Clinton, we are here. It is Wednesday, and we are live. How you doing, buddy?
Doing well. It is me and Adam's birthday eve, Brandon. So how about that? So in about
Eve.
Yeah, I celebrate the entire collection. So in about I'm on the East Coast, so about an hour and 55 minutes. I don't think we'll still be podcasting, but in about an hour 55 minutes, I don't turn back into a pumpkin. I just turned 47. Not sure which one's actually better, but
Oh, that's right. It's not just the eve of your birthday, but also our good buddy Adam Emmer.
That's right. We share a birthday 1 year apart.
Outstanding. Well, happy birthday to you both. It's a good day. It's a good evening. And we're here to talk a little bit of contract stuff tonight, Clinton.
Yeah, we got a lot of movement there, Brandon. So it's gonna be quite a bit of fun. So let's show folks what we got cooking, right? So we got this. 1 second. There it is. That's the right sizing. So we got 3 deals that came in today. And Brandon, you've become our de facto, cap master. I still get a little confused, even with with Sport Track or Over the Cap, and between the bonuses and the first year, and what can you get out, and what's the cap the second year, and then how much could you save, and what's really escapable. It gets a little, honestly, goes over my head a little bit. I'm glad it doesn't for you, but we got news on Darnold, news on Kupp, news on DeMarcus Lawrence, and you're gonna walk us through it, and I'm gonna learn. I'm excited about that, dude.
Well, I will do my best. Of the 3 of us, it has seemed that I'm the most interested in these cap things. And I've found that people in the offseason, we fall into like all these little different groups. Like there's people that care a lot more about the draft. There's people that care a lot more about the salary cap and what goes on with that. And then there's like the data and analytics people. There's like we just created within our Discord a group just for the folks that are really into digging into data and answering some of those analytical questions. And so, that's during the off season, we have to find our niche and what helps us get us through until we all get to the point to where we all get to watch football together again.
Well, I did not even realize that channel existed in our Discord. So what's the name of that channel? Like, I will check it out after the show.
12's Intel.
Oh, wow. All
Yes,
right.
We have a data analyst flocker who is requested it, and so here we are.
Hey, look, it's 2025, right? So we could celebrate that. I've been getting more into data as well. So great. All right. Well, that's exciting, bud.
We also are excited by this donation from our live executive producer, Ryan911, with a $9.99 super chat. Happy birthday. Of course, talking to you, talking to our good buddy Adam. Happy birthday, everybody.
Thank you, Ryan. We appreciate it. Yeah, and that's a great member of our Discord right there for sure. So thank you a ton, man. It means a lot.
Sean Scotchman saying it looks like John Schneider has a little bit of pocket change going forward. Yeah, we're going to get into that a little bit too. Of course, we would like you to subscribe to the podcast, youtube.com/Seahawkers podcast. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, and leave a comment after we're done too. Just it all helps. It keeps everything going.
Yeah, one thing quick too. Sean Scotchman was just up on screen. I'll put him back up there. You see the little logo next to his name. He is a member out on YouTube. So he joined out on YouTube, which is one of the places you could do it. Of course, you can go to getintheflock.com, of course, but Sean decided to do it out here. We appreciate that. And out on YouTube, you get a bunch of little benefits as well. You do get invited to the Discord, but then you also get to play with some fun emojis and custom things we put out just for the YouTube audience. So Scotchman, we love you. Thanks, dude.
Thank you. And real quick announcement that, yes, coming up April 24th, our live draft party out of Clearwater Casino. There's a QR code up on the screen. We hope that you'll join us there too. And if not, you can join us out on YouTube as we do a live draft stream. So that's coming up April 24th. Clinton,
excited. Yes,
survey out to the folks.
I did. I love the YouTube surveying tool is really good. It's just simple. It's effective. It's just a great little tool that they put out not too long ago. So I try to do like 1 or 2 a week, and we get some great traction. So this is draft season, Brandon. So I simply asked, look, if we don't take a interior offensive lineman at pick number 18 or our first pick, if you want to expand that, that's fine with the trade back. Where would you like to spend the draft capital? So, Brandon, how would you answer that before we tell everybody who maybe is listening on audio how the 300 plus flockers answered this?
So there are only 4 answers to this, or this is just the top 4?
So there's only 4. That one of the limitations of the YouTube tool is they allow 4. So instead of 3 and then me putting an other, what I usually do on these is I'll put 4 and then trust me, if I don't put the right 4, people will comment and tell me. So it happens a lot.
And what is the reasoning for not just allowing us to pick offensive line? You just think that everybody would go that way first, or?
Oh yeah, no, yes. I think I would be 60, 70% would just say, yeah, draft the guard, draft the center, etc. The IOL, and there's been so much conversation. It's one of the things about the draft too, is I think you have to prepare. You get your crushes, right? So right now my crush is still Tyler Warren. I'm developing a significant crush on Kevin Winston Jr., the safety out of Penn State, who I would hope is still there at 50, 52. We need a safety. The dude hits and tackles so well. But I'd like people to prepare for, if we don't do the thing we expect John to maybe do this time, take a guard, where would you like to see us go? And kind of just get prepared for, I don't want to say disappointment, but just be prepared if your draft crush is off the board, or if John just has other ideas. That's kind of the idea behind it, Brandon.
Yeah. Well, we've got the snail in the chat saying guards aren't worth a first-round pick. No, I would agree with you, Snail, that they aren't necessarily worth a first-round pick. But when you put yourself in the position that you really, really need a guard, it starts to look a lot more attractive, just because of the significance of the need. And now that guard has not been addressed through free agency, it appears that draft would be the next greatest option. Although we did hear, if you listen to John Schneider on 710 Seattle Sports, they did have one of the Jacksonville Jaguars offensive linemen in, who is a restricted free agent, that apparently they're looking at him now. So the work is not done on the offensive line, Glenn.
Yeah. Does it ever start is the real question, Brandon. So I do take a little, and we love having the snail in here, another great member that has been with us for quite a while on YouTube, one of our first YouTube members. So thank you. I just disagree with you that I just don't see things in that kind of way, that the way the sentence reads, well, a guard could never be worth a first rounder. And there's players across the ages that are very much worth the
draft too, right?
Well, that's a great point too, because this draft is kind of notoriously thin at the top, meaning there might be 6 or 7 true, absolute lock and load first rounders that would be a first rounder every single year. Then there is this spread, right? So for sitting at 18, and you could get what is the best guard on the board, and he's looks to be a surefire NFL starter plus player right away with Pro Bowl upside. That to me is so worth the pick at 18. I don't care that it's a first rounder or not. To me, it's go fix that problem and go get a dude that maybe could be, on your team for 8 or 9 years. To me, Brandon, I don't care that it's a guard taken in the first round. I care that you got a really high quality player at a huge position of need. And oh, by the way, the offensive line matters. And there's 2 guards for every 5 offensive linemen, right? So I think it does matter.
I think the answer is always, it depends, because gosh, you could say, well, quarterback's the most important. I'm not sold on Sam Darnold. Go get a quarterback. Well, by the time you get around to number 18, quarterback is really, really important. But if the next best quarterback is only worth a 3rd or 4th round pick in terms of the type of player that you project him to be within the NFL, then you wouldn't want to pass up on a better player who's going to actually help your football team than a guy who's just going to sit on the bench. I'm sure if the Steelers could go back in time to 2022 and take somebody else other than Kenny Pickett, who's no longer on the team, and I don't know, pick somebody who would actually play football for them. Maybe it's even a guard. They would go ahead and do that.
Could be even a guard, right? And we got lots of folks coming in too. We got Amy Holmes saying, "Hey all, hey Amy, awesome seeing you here." Let's see, we got Mike Dubb saying, "Oh hey guys, thanks for giving me something to listen to at work." Mike, let us know what you're doing for work and have a great shift there. And then real quickly, I just want to say, Snail asks, "At what cost, Clinton?" I mean, that's a tough one to answer, Snail. It's like I don't know what you mean by that. Like I'd have to ask you to define that. I would flip it and say, can you win a Super Bowl with a C- towards F offensive line? Like, can you actually win a Super Bowl with that kind of line? I don't think you can. So at what cost to go get a pillar in your offensive line? Kind of whatever it takes. Pick 18 sounds really good this year for me, Snail. That's my take.
Yes, and I've seen some other posts in the chat too, referring to the fact that it is a deep class at guard. So whether you're picking early, maybe you get that guy in the second or third round. We'll see. But yes, Jason Turner asking a guard, what's that? Nobody knows anymore. If we look at our general manager, he's ignored them. Maybe they don't even exist anymore. We're questioning our reality. You asked me a question though that I have avoided for a long time. It is the survey question, and I would go with the majority, 48% on this one. Edge, defensive tackle, somewhere on the defensive line. That's where I would spend my 18th overall pick.
Yeah, awesome. So that's where most said, and I never have a problem with adding to adding to strength and just building up your line. I think it's a good choice. I do see some others asking. I've been hot and heavy on tight end, and for me, there's one and only. It's Tyler Warren or not. Like you could wait till later at 18. Yeah. If he's there, fine. Colston Loveland's getting a ton of love, and no pun intended. And he's really, I think he might be an excellent pro, but I like Tyler Warren because I think he's such a good inline tight end that could help the offensive line, which is the biggest problem we have. So I feel like we could get a kind of a 2-for-1 with Tyler Warren. So that's the only dude for me that I would take. So I would be in the tight end category with the caveat that my guy is there, Tyler.
The next one that wouldn't bother me too much is cornerback. And I see you have lumped in with safety at defensive back, but I would just go straight corner. But I don't know exactly which one I'd like. I haven't done my look at some of the top corners yet, but we'll see about that going forward. So some of the news today, Clinton. What do we got?
There's some things, right? So I think, are we on guard watch first? Is that the first bit of news? I think it is. I think it is.
No, I think Steven Sims.
Okay, let's see. Whatever we had next. Okay, yeah, Steven Sims. So yes, so we signed Steven Sims and a UDFA in 2019 and kind of kicked around the league a little bit here and there. Basically, Brandon, I mean, maybe our new kick returner, maybe our new punt returner, but I don't know. This wide receiver room is getting weird at this point.
This one screamed to me the River Craycraft replacement. We're finally moving on from River Craycraft, who we just signed last week.
Don't cry for me, Argentina, right? Craycraft. I guess they'll battle it out. I don't know. It's fine. I don't think this is going to move the needle too much when it comes to dudes being our kick returner or our punt returner. I'd prefer to go with youth in the draft. And a little shout out or a little credit that Nemhauser had a tweet out today that, hey, like Steven Sims did an admirable job as a kickoff returner, but he's actually had quite a number of muffs in consecutive years as a punt returner. So he's not like the cleanest dude back there. I don't know, Brandon. I've seen enough of not having a guy where we got to hold our breath. Even if it's a fair catch every single time, but you just secure it. It's not ideal, but a guy that you got to hold your breath with, I'm not exactly ecstatic. Kick returner, sure. But man, I just like to see us go get a running back in the draft, maybe late, or a UDFA who has return ability and go that route. But I guess, hey, welcome Sims and let's see if he makes the team.
And it doesn't hurt to build up special teams, as Sean Scotchman in the chat points out. We struggled there a bit last year, so to go and address that through free agency, it's probably one of the least cost heavy positions on the team that you can go out and address. Apart from, I don't know, maybe guard, because as we saw this week, we thought, well, Teven Jenkins, he's one of those guys out there that is available as a free agent. He even came into the building. He was up there among the guys, especially if you looked at, gosh, even Brandon Thorne's rankings, and he's one of the more respected offensive lineman analysis guys out there. And Teven Jenkins is up there behind Will Fries, and you're thinking, okay, well, if you go down the list, these are the guys you need to look at. Teven Jenkins came in, he left, and then he goes to Cleveland, and it's like, oh, well, maybe they offered him a bunch more money. No, it turns out that he signed a 1-year, $3 million deal to go to Cleveland, Clinton.
Yeah, I mean, he was supposed to get a much larger contract, right? He was supposed to be, meaning when he hit free agency, what the projections were, he was supposed to get a multi-year contract, maybe $8 to $12 million a year for Jenkins, and he gets nowhere near that. I mean, all I could say about Jenkins is Seattle had him there. So this to me just screams they did not want him. And if they made that determination that they could do better, then we got to live with that. But it does go against what Schneider said the week previous when he's like, look, we're not going to throw, good money at medium performers, because then Lucas gets signed, or Lucas Patrick. I always get Lucas Patrick.
Lucas
right?
Patrick.
Yeah, Lucas Patrick. He gets signed for whatever, like $2.5 million for the year. Jenkins gets this. We sign neither of them, right? So it's like, that's not good money. That's
like,
bottom. That's bottom of the barrel
money.
NFL. Yeah, that's bottom of O-line money.
Either way, Laken Tomlinson goes to the Texans. You could have signed both Patrick and Teven Jenkins for the amount, like less than the amount that Laken Tomlinson signed for the Texans.
And that would have been fine, right? And again, let them battle and still go do what you're going to go do in the draft, which is likely take a guard in the top 52, meaning the first 3 picks that we do have. So yeah, I mean, good luck, Jenkins. I hope you could extend your career. Hey, look at this. Maybe he'll have a good year here and then make his way out to Seattle after proving something.
When we can pay him more. The bunny in the chat saying we improved the team by not paying Teven Jenkins, addition by not adding. Yeah. That's what we have to hope for at this point. I like to think that even a guy who could maybe play 7-8 games at a higher level than what we got from some of our other guys, that would have been worth paying for. But hey, even if it's just to shut fans up and be like, look, we got a guy at this point. Like, just make us happy, John. That's
Oh yeah, that reminds me of the was it Special K, that 90s rap song, I Got a Man. He's like, what's your man got to do with me? It's like, hey, we need a version of that for I Got a Guard. I got a guard. What's your guard got to do with me? We don't have any guards. What we do, we have our dudes on our team, and we'll see how they progress, and we will draft. So let's hold out hope, folks. It is still March.
Well, speaking of guys on our team, Sam Darnold, we got just a waterfall of contract news that came out today. We heard about the contract for Sam Darnold, how that's going to be structured. We heard about Cooper Kupp, and we heard about DeMarcus Lawrence. And so I thought it'd be good to go through this and talk a little bit of cap talk, because it's that part of the offseason. It's also draft part, but we'll get to that too. And with this news that came out today, we had a show just a few days ago where I kind of played around with the numbers a little bit, had some ideas about how it might look. And so it's good to go through and see where maybe I was right, maybe I was wrong. And starting here with quarterback Sam Darnold, Clinton. And one other thing I wanted to point out too, now that we have these numbers, we also know how much cap space the Seahawks have left. And it falls to about $36 million, because I think when we talked the other day, it was listed around right around the 60s, mid 60s, and now we have a little bit more solid number now that these contracts are in there, 36 million, which is still, as we talked about at the top of the show, that's still a pretty good bit of pocket change going forward.
Yeah, feels like a nice kitty for us that we could still kick around. Maybe, perhaps, maybe there's a trade for a veteran in the works, take on some salary and go get a player. So not out of the realm of possibility. We got the money for it, that's for certain. We have the draft capital for it as well. So let's keep an eye on that. And I am interested though, kicking it back to you. How close to the pin were you with your predictions? I mean, we're on Darnold, so let's start there. How would you grade your prediction, and which way did it go from how you predicted?
Yeah, well, I had most of the numbers kind of already. The two questions really were only the amount of the signing bonus and then the amount for the base salary for the first year. And so, depending on how you want to grade those, if it's pass fail, then I failed because I got both those wrong. But one number influences the other. And the interesting part was that the base salary part. So generally, when a player signs a contract, most teams will do just the veteran base minimum because you can spread out that signing bonus over the entire length of the contract or pass the contract into void years. 5 years is ultimately what they ended up doing. So I got that part of the prediction right, that they would have 2 void years. And then but the base salary part ended up coming in at 5.3 million, and then that signing bonus was 32 million. So the 37 was the amount that was the guaranteed contract in the first year, so we knew that part, 47.5 million. And so we see that kind of divided between the base salary, the signing bonus. And yeah, the interesting part to that was that they put $4 million extra in base salary than they needed to. So instead of, we talked about that 2.9% cap hit for year one, it ends up being closer to 5%. The part about that is they could then restructure that base salary eventually into signing bonus again. So it's kind of that idea of, well, maybe we aren't going to use all of that cap space that we have this year. So the base salary, then it ends up lowering the cap numbers for 2026, 2027, just by a little bit. But yeah, we have 11.5% just projected. Obviously, we don't know the exact cap, but 11.5% cap in year two of the contract, 2026, and then 14% in 2027.
So, to me, it's almost like, prepaying down your mortgage a little bit if
Little
you
bit, yeah.
have the extra capital, right? So it's like, okay, I don't have a better place to put this. We have $36 million or whatever the structure is here that left us with 36 million. And if you prepay a little bit now, soften the blow a little bit later, which will I guess the idea is make you a bit more liquid in 2026, 27. And we still have quite a number of dollars sitting there. So I do get that. I think the most intriguing part for me is that, you know, there was like this big rumor that, oh, well, it's really a 1 year deal and it's 1 year guaranteed and we could just get out scot free if we want to. But that's actually not the case, right? There's like a $25 million hit year two if we were to walk away from this contract, as far as I could see it there, or something around 25 million. So it's really more like the Seahawks are banking on 2 years. But even if Darnold underperforms year one and they're going to keep him, he's still only going to be less than 12% of the overall cap. So if it's like they have Darnold on year two at 11.5%, and if he's not the guy, well, then I would think that the other quarterback in the room is somebody on a rookie contract. So like your total between your two quarterbacks is probably still below 15, which again, very manageable for an NFL team in 2025.
Yeah, and to go back to the part about whether or not it's yeah, they could get out of it. I think it does. It's more of a 2 year, $65 million deal. I I think technically there might be a way out of it. I mean, there's always. I think the way that it's set up, it even. Well, if he just performs real poorly, then yeah, I think you're kind of stuck. But because that roster bonus the next year that we're looking at here at
Mhm.
15 million, that doesn't guarantee until around the fifth day of 20 of the league year in 2026. Um, yeah, I don't see where it's guaranteed. 52.5 million guaranteed at signing. So yeah, that's the okay. The base salary I think is guaranteed for year 2. So
Yeah, and I guess
yes,
I'm just looking at the
you could pay that,
dead money. Yeah,
but
I'm looking at the dead
yeah,
money in year
right.
2 of like 25.6 if they were to cut him, being like, okay, it's not actually this get out of jail free after 1 year. That's just not how it's structured. Yeah, they could save a little money if they do that. They could get back 8.3 million, but you still have to. It's not ideal. This looks to me like Seattle basically is pot committed for 2 years of Sam Darnold.
Yeah, I think that's safer to say. It's different when you go then to the Cooper Cup contract,
Hmm.
which is more of a 1 year, $17.5 million deal, and you go out to year 2, you go out to year 3, and it's about 13 million a year in base salary for those 2 years. So this one, I was wildly guessing at, and I wanted to find a way to impact and screw the Rams as much as possible. This actually ends up it helps the Rams, but it's an actual contract that I think Kupp would sign. So that was my caveat with the way that I set up the Kupp contract, is that I questioned whether or not he would sign it because it really did kind of limit his guarantees the way that I had set it up. So this way he gets 17.5 million guaranteed, and actually he gets his signing bonus, which is 12. Yeah, and then 5 million in base salary for year 1. He gets a roster bonus, which I guess is probably one of those things. It could be being here for training camp. It could be per game roster bonus. It does look like he has a 30,000 per game active bonus in his contract for year 2 and year 3. So, yeah, looking at the deal here, knowing Clinton that it is a 5 year base salary, essentially 1 year, 17 million. Does that how if it's just 1 year, 17? How does that feel to you as a wide receiver contract?
A little pricey, right? If that again, the one at 17, I do think the APY on like a 2 year brings him, I think he's really looking, or even the APY over the 3 for 45 at the 15 million. Look, the wide receivers are expensive, right? So in the land of Darius Slayton getting 3 for 36 and Darnell Mooney making 13 million APY and Cortland Sutton being right in this range and those kind of dudes, Gabe Davis, 13 or so million APY. I think Cooper Cup. I was going to say Cooper Cup. I think Cooper Cup is better than all of those receivers and has been. I mean, substantially better. He was a triple crown winner for crying out loud, right? It is simply about they're rolling the dice on can he still be impactful at this age after some injury. It's not blown out knees, right? It's other stuff. He ended up having a high ankle sprain that really took him out of commission. And yes, some injuries have compiled and piled up for Cooper Cup over the last couple of years. With that, they're banking on him being able to stay somewhat clean. If he can stay clean, he could play healthy, he could be rather effective. And then I think he's slotting in with like, okay, did he take a hometown discount? No, he did not. Did he get fair market value for himself compared to those other wide receivers, Brandon? I mean, I think he did.
With Cooper's injury history, I'm really surprised that he did get a contract that was, well, if it's just the 1 year thing, 17. Based on the other contracts, I'm a little bit surprised that it's this favorable to Cup, because it seems like a lot of the contracts that we've seen so far, it's been really favorable to the team. And I guess when you slot it out, of what receivers he's behind in salary versus the ones that he's ahead, it starts to make a little bit more sense. But when I look at, gosh, even what De'Ami Brown signed for the Jaguars in the 1-year, $10 million deal, like, he's not had a significant number of injury type issues.
Yeah, but
Tutu,
he played like 5 good games, and I like De'Ami Brown.
that's true.
You
But
know,
also, I mean, Kupp was he was injured quite a bit too. So
yeah,
it's a balance, and yeah, you're behind. I mean, it makes sense that he's not getting McLaurin money, Pittman money. I mean, Deebo Samuel's contract's still crazy. That was a trade. But he is kind of in that neighborhood of, well, and you mentioned some of the names, Christian Kirk, Cortland Sutton, Khalil Shakir, Darnell Mooney, and he does have the talent to be better than that. But it's the injury concern that, the last 3 years of having injuries that's kept him out more than 5 games. It's
yeah.
It makes it tough for me.
Well, you brought up a really good name there, right? And I think it's a good barometer for like an honest discussion. Would I rather have Khalil Shakir or on that contract he got, or Cooper Kupp? And given age and injury history, I'd take Khalil Shakir now. Like, because I think, you also get to see him with Josh Allen in a high-powered offense, but he's a really, really strong possession receiver inside that Buffalo Bills offense. Savvy route runner, et cetera, et cetera. But he's younger, right? This is kind of Kupp getting a bit of a legacy contract also. So again, it's a little heavy, but if you recall, we put out a YouTube poll for this one too before we signed him, like the day before. We're like, would you be comfortable with paying Kupp like what he's worth, or like a slight overpay? And a huge chunk of Seahawks fans voted totally comfortable with a slight overpay. And I think that's probably where we landed, to be honest. But we have the money. It's sitting there. We've been through this now, right? So it's like, okay, if we're prepaying the mortgage on Sam Darnold, what's it matter if we overpaid Cooper Kupp by $1.5 million in a year? What's it matter?
Yeah, I suppose what it matters to me is that those are if you want to go on a spending spree, start spending on guys that are going to be here long term on the defensive line, like Boye Mafe, like Hall, and Charles Cross. Shoot, I mean, these are the guys that we're going to be pounding the table for potentially re-signing, and to get those done. I just think that based on where the team is the production that we get from Kupp this year going to be significant enough versus, I don't know, where you could have. I go back to a younger guy that that signed for less. Like, even if it's a 1-year deal, I think taking a shot at De'Ami Brown maybe would have been a better use of that salary.
Time will tell.
Maybe
like
even
I
Khalil
said,
Shakir, but
maybe.
that was probably that's more of a long-term deal. So I kind of put that in a separate category.
Yeah, De'Ami Brown's interesting, right? And again, he really had a nice 5 to 6 weeks at the end of his rookie contract. He didn't do much. Now that could just be because the Commanders didn't do much, and the Commanders got a lot better when they got Jaden Daniels, and but the last 5-6 weeks, he was really, really cooking. He became kind of like a dual threat with Terry McLaurin. So it was somebody that I was flagging, being like, I'm very interested in getting De'Ami Brown. But Cooper Kupp won the Triple Crown not that long ago, man, and a Super Bowl MVP. So let's
the thing that I do like about this contract is that if he performs up to it in year 1, then you do have him at a reasonable amount year 2, year 3, and at 34, is he going to continue being open? I don't know, but for the Seahawks to be able to get out of that contract at any point, then it's relatively easy. So
yes, good. Second Super Bowl MVP, and then we can get out of the contract. Deal?
Yeah, at any point, if he brings us a Super Bowl, this is an awesome signing.
Perfect. Yes, correct.
I will Percy Harvin Yeah, this contract.
Me too.
It's fine. All right. DeMarcus Lawrence on the edge, and we found out this is not one that we talked about, although I think we knew that it was coming in at a relatively team-friendly amount anyway, and that does play out here as we're showing it on screen. A 5.1 million base salary. He gets a 6.6 million signing bonus that's spread out over the next 3 years. He gets another million in per game roster bonuses. And so if you see that 850,000 per game roster bonus, the 850,000 is divided up. That is not 850,000 per game. So it's up to 850,000 if he plays every single game. And I like this contract a lot, Glenn.
Me too. I liked the addition when we made it. I'm a big fan, Brandon, of adding professional football players that are good at their thing and have shown it for a while. And again, it's a little bit older, so you're dealing with a player that has had some injuries, even last year, missed a lot of time last year. He is, we've talked about his skill on field. He is a remarkable run stuffer still. He still has some pass rush upside. And I think when you start pairing him with the rest of this defensive line, who we know the players here, his ability to get home maybe a few more times I think it's going to rise a little bit. So with health, I mean, this type of dude, 6-7 sacks and being a stout run defender and like adding strength on top of a strength coming out of 2024. That's, to me, is not that much money, Brandon. So it's just health. Can he stay healthy? And if so, I think this is a very reasonable contract for this is the type of dude that the career will be over and people are like, oh yeah, he was a really good football player. Like that guy he was just solid. He was really good. He had some white hot years in his absolute prime, but in his conglomerate, that's a damn good football player. These are guys you add and can take a borderline top 10, top 12 defense and start to throttle this closer to top 8, top 6, and then you cook him with gas after that, man.
Sean Scotchman out in chat saying D-Law can help our young edge players on the team too. And that was one other thing I wanted to address with the Kupp signing too.
Yeah.
The fact that they're gaining a lot of experience then at the wide receiver spot because you're losing Tyler Lockett, you're losing DK. You don't have any real veteran leadership in that wide receiver room now. I think that Kupp fills that part of it. And so if there's one part of that contract that I can get behind, it's that idea of having a solid veteran that's almost like a player coach. I mean, you listen to the guy and he knows the wide receiver spot because he knows the entire offense. And he's just that type of guy that's going to, he's going to try and know it as well as the offensive coordinator of the team and understand the offense to that level. So I think that that's pretty important. And then for DeMarcus Lawrence at the edge too, I think to have a veteran that I think that I look at him completely different than Kupp though, in terms of the injury questions, and that he's coming off a Liz Frank injury, and that can be kind of concerning because some guys just don't respond that well to it with a foot injury that's significant. But it was one season. It wasn't one injury. It wasn't multiple injuries over multiple seasons. It was just one season where he missed a lot of games. And I tend to think of those guys being a little bit less risky than guys who are injured over multiple seasons.
I believe in veteran presence as well, and it's part of what you're paying for. You're paying us with Kupp and D-Law. You're paying some premium to bring in dudes who know how to lead, know how to operate, and really can showcase to younger players how to do the small things consistently well, if they don't already know these things, right? I think Seattle does a pretty good job overall with getting high caliber, high character people in the room, and has done that for a long time. But you take D-Law and you allow like Derek Hall and to an extent Mafe. I think Hall could pitch even a little higher in terms of ceiling, and I think Mafe is good. I mean, hey, you don't get 7, 8, 9 sacks back-to-back years out being pretty darn good at NFL football. So Mafe is a good edge. Hall, I think, actually has a bit more upside just with the power and some of that just, I don't know, some of that veracity around the edge that I think he has. And coming into year 3, he just turned 24 years old. To me, Brandon, this is the perfect type of dude that he could gain a lot from, and they could help each other out quite a bit. So if it's not DeMarcus Lawrence getting 6 or 8 sacks, but all of a sudden we get back to having, Hall or Mafe actually get to that 10 or more territory, which have been kind of lacking for a couple of years. They've been hanging around 8, 9. That's a huge benefit too. Or Lawrence is doing this up the middle, and lo and behold, Murphy finds that second gear, which I think he's going to find in year 2 also. And Leo just does Leo things. This is a very good defensive line, Brandon. This is fun. Lawrence really adds to the room. It's a good contract.
I'm excited about the defensive line. I'm not so excited about the offensive line, apart from our tackles. And I'm kind of with Sean. Yeah. But what we were hoping for was an O-line player coach vet, but no. And Lucas Patrick would have been a part of that. And that goes back, Clinton, to just that discussion of, gosh, where you can choose to spend your money as a general manager, because just as with that Cooper Kupp contract, $17 million, if you look at that and you go, well, shoot, for that 17 guaranteed, you could have had Kupp, which I just got done praising like the veteran leadership aspect of it that I really like. But do you balance that versus having, and it doesn't even have to be Teven Jenkins, but you can see now that based on where we are in this free agent cycle, you could have had De'Ami Brown, you could have had Lucas Patrick, and you could have had another veteran guard. So would you rather have like the slightly lesser upside at the wide receiver spot and have that depth and experience at guard? Shoot, put Zeitler in there too. I think based on what his contract came in as, you may have been able to fit 3 of those, 2 guards, 1 wide receiver under that amount of what Kupp got.
I mean, I think in a vacuum, perhaps. And I think that was their plan, right? So I think they were trying to go for fries, as we know. It didn't go. And that was the last one that had that kind of level that they were like willing to go pretty big, 17, 18 million a year. And once that fell apart, they found other ways. Because, I mean, the die was cast the other way, right? Gino was gone. DK was gone. So I hate to say you got to spend the money somewhere, but they had to spend the money somewhere. And they think
they could have spent it at corner. They could have spent it at veteran linebacker.
But with who?
There's other spots on the team.
But not at that, frankly, not at that price level, though. I mean, there's other spots in that team. But yes, we need a third safety still. We could fill out the cornerback room, like you said. Like, look, I like Job. Job had a nice first year. But I also have been, to say it, I've been like duped a couple of times in the last like 6 or 7 years where that third Seahawks corner looks like he's going to be the guy, and then he's just not. Like, he has like a year and a half that's good, and then kind of takes a step back. So that'll be very interesting to watch this year with Job, and then into the draft if we do, if we do go grab another corner. So, but I mean, I don't know. The money's got to go somewhere, Brandon. I think he was a higher price guy that they think is a needle mover. And if he's healthy, he absolutely still is. And that's really all it boils down to. It's like, I am excited for him to operate in the Kubiak offense. When we see all those condensed formations, and then you have 2 really crisp route runners and JSN and Kupp doing their thing, we should get those types of sustained drives where things look easy and smooth. That's what Kubiak should bring, and Kupp should be a big part of that. So that's how I would answer it for now.
Well, I have to think that there's the potential that the offensive line is just going to be a little bit better because of the type of offense that we're going to run, but that also appears to be what John Schneider's banking on, and that our players are just going to be better this year. And hey, Sean Scotchman, he brought us in with 10 gifted memberships. So a big thanks to Sean for throwing that out there, and the folks in chat. Now you have access to all the emojis that are within our emoji bank out here on YouTube.
That is awesome, Sean. Thank you very much. I'll accept that as a beautiful birthday gift. So thank you, dude, for doing that. I know, Amy, I know you're hanging out, and I know you know a lot about this. I know a little bit about how you could go grab one of those gift subscriptions. I know you have to like kind of have something toggled to be able to go do it. I know you have to like basically watch the show, like and comment, and then the algorithm will decide it's you. But there's some toggle you gotta put on your profile that will allow you to get a gifted membership. Brandon, I don't know if you have that exact detail. I bet Amy does, because I know she helps out Brian Nemhauser quite a bit.
Yeah, I think you have to have gifted memberships turned on, and it's something in your profile. I tried to go and find it one time in my own profile, and I haven't had any luck with it. So I really can't be of too much help. And Jason Tudor in chat saying, if you're going to complain they didn't sign anyone, tell us who they should have signed. Just in my opinion. Jason, I think I've been pretty open about who they should have signed based on the contract that Will Fries got. I don't think John would have done it because it was a 2-year guaranteed contract that they gave him in Minnesota. Schneider has been super hesitant about doing more than 1 year guaranteed, but it was like 2 years, I want to say 35 million guaranteed over those 2 years. Like it's essentially the Cooper Kupp contract times 2. So if you're looking apples to apples, the same amount of contract money would have gone to Fries as Kupp in year number 1. I would have been totally comfortable with that. So that's one. Yeah. If obviously they couldn't get Fries, but they were in on that negotiation. They had Teven Jenkins in. They had Lucas Patrick in. I would have been fine with those guys coming in too, and then using that money on a receiver. So those are the guys that I would have been fine with, all those guys. And yes, Teven Jenkins, there were questions around him, but when you see what he signed with for the Browns, like that's not a contract to where you go, well, if he competes and he loses out to any of the guys on the team, then I'm happy knowing that, right? That's more depth and competition that is there. And gosh, even that amount of money, if you end up drafting a guy and you cut a guy making $3 million in the preseason, that's not going to hurt your team that much.
And last episode we did too. And Jason, thank you for the comment. Like if you want to, it's totally fine. You want to call us out on that. I love it. And all comments are good, right? So the last episode we did, a chunk of it was looking at what guards remain. And we went through that too. You know, like there was Will Hernandez, there's Scherf. There's a few out there still. And then previously when free agency began, I was very much into the camp of, if we can go get Zeitler for a year or two, I think it's a perfectly cromulent patch. As he gets a little bit older, you're just signing a really competent guard. And at some point, age is going to catch up to you, like maybe it did for Scherf these last year or two. But still, I'd still take Scherf in the room for all the reasons we just talked about. DeMarcus Lawrence, like he's, and I think Lawrence is probably a better football player at this point. But maybe Scherf also got, he went to Jacksonville after a couple of other stints, and Brandon, maybe he just got like tired of Jacksonville. It's a terrible organization for a long, long time. Maybe he's kind of reserved some stuff in the tank. Go give Scherf a 1-year deal, bring him in as a veteran, and don't go kind of like totally blind into this draft where you feel so compelled that you have to take multiple interior linemen early. I'm
not worried about that, Clinton. I'm getting the very strong impression that John Schneider's not going into this draft with the idea that he has to take a guard even.
Well,
because he's come out and told us. He's come out and told us that he likes the guys on the team. So
he has. And we want to say thank you to Amy too. She said, and no worries, Amy. She says, I'm behind, have to turn it on the desktop. Okay. So this is again for the gifting. And then she says it's in your settings. So Brandon, you were buzzing around it, but I think the key there is if you're watching on mobile, well, find a computer, find a laptop and turn it on there so you can get one of those 10 memberships. And I saw that another Sean grabbed one earlier. Sean S said, thanks for the gift. Look at that. Sean's helping Sean's, even though they spell it differently. And even though one spells it like Alexander the Great, number 37, who really should get some Hall of Fame love at this point. And it's been enough years. The guy's up there. But we love Sean's helping Sean's, people helping people, Brandon.
And the snail in chat saying, I really do think they like the talent in the building. I do. I think that they like the talent in the building. I think that for as much of a problem as it has been year after year after year, bringing in some outside guys just to help with the competition, it's going to make that it's going to make it a better competition. And once you get to the regular season and it ends up being the guys on the team, then that's fine. You can have depth at a position too. I think that's not a terrible idea either.
Yeah, it's like too much pitching in baseball, right? You figure it out. And then we got Doug Zilla Monster saying JS was on with Bob and Wyman this evening. He mentioned, IOL at least 3 times. Yeah, he did, but I listened to it. I didn't think he said very, very much, except for they brought the other guy you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, the guy from Jacksonville.
Who said very little snaps last year or two. But I didn't think he said anything new / compelling. They kind of poked at him being like, hey, are people saying you're going to draft a interior lineman early? And he's like, oh yeah, what good idea. Like I didn't notice. Right. So, I didn't get much out of today's interview that we didn't already know. I mean, sometimes there's a nugget out there too. There wasn't much for me that I could peel out that was net new exciting. And Doug Zilla Monster, if you heard it differently, let us know.
Yeah, and Sean saying, wondering if JS is waiting for leftover veterans after the draft. That's a possibility too. That's kind of areas where I know that, well, he's always looking, right? And after the draft is a good time to find those guys. In training camp, once they, some of the younger guys look to maybe displace some of the veterans, that's the potential too. So, there's all times throughout the offseason, and shoot, even trades during the season that come up that have some potential too. We've seen him take that route. So, that's a little bit tougher because, not a lot of teams willing to give up good offensive linemen. It's usually the ones that are in contract disputes that are making a lot of noise within the team, and maybe the team isn't that good anymore.
Good point by Stuart here live saying he, as in John, said he'd draft a quarterback nearly every year. Which what has he done now too?
And Alex Magoo is the one after Russell Wilson, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, he says a lot of stuff. This is the time of the year where they'll say just about anything. He probably, and I, as much as I joked about the idea of, and maybe it wasn't as much joking, but he is, talking about offensive line or liking the guys on the offensive line. I would expect him to say that then going into the draft, because as much as other teams, I'm sure they look at the Seahawks and say, well, they're probably going to be drafting a lot of offensive linemen. And so that when those guys come up in the draft, there's probably going to be teams looking to jump us to potentially take an offensive lineman. And he's throwing out everything he can at this point.
Yeah, I think the cool thing that we could land on, again, it's funny, we craft all these different shows to like have these, because people are like, hey, stop talking about offensive line. It's enough already. And we get lots of those comments. And then we go out, we set out to do a show on contracts, but we end up, but the gravity is real, right? We wouldn't be back here if this wasn't the topic to keep talking about and not just say the same stuff over and over again, right? Try to progress the conversation, try to bring in some new ideas and concepts, which I think we're doing. I think we're going to get to pick 18, and there's a very good chance Kelvin Banks, the tackle that could kick into guard, will be available. There's a very good chance Gray Zabel, NDSU, guard, center, play tackle, he'll be available. There's a very good chance Tyler Booker from Alabama will be available. There's a lot of questions on whether he's the type of guard you would use in a Kubiak system, but his tape is very good in Alabama.
You can use him in any system.
Perhaps, but
I've seen him do
yeah,
pulling guard things and
you've seen him do
zone
the
blocking
things,
things at Alabama too. So it's not
right?
outside his wheelhouse just because he ran a little bit slow.
Yeah, precise, and it is certainly good pedigree over in Alabama. And there's and Donovan Jackson, another one, right? So there's probably 3 to 5 legitimate starting guards that'll be sitting there at 18. That's just the way it's probably going to break. So look, this is put up or shut up for John. If he feels strongly and wants to go get a safety at 18, or just whatever, if he wants to go anywhere else besides O-line, I mean, well, he's the boss. He calls the shots. But he also knows, Brandon, it's going to come with a heap of heat if he does that and we still struggle at offensive line. He doesn't really address it in the first maybe 50 picks.
Yeah, and going back to the athleticism conversation for an offensive lineman, I do remember Orlando Brown, Oklahoma tackle, who had a notoriously bad combine performance, and then he ended up slipping down multiple rounds in the draft because he just he's too slow to play in the NFL. Oh, but what does Orlando Brown do? He gets drafted late, and then he's still in the NFL all these years later, and was a successful player, and he was considered to be a top 10 player before he had just a bad time at the combine.
Yeah, nope, it happens, right? And again, I definitely weigh more on the tape don't lie than the other sides of it. Also, I will look at 2 players in parallel and say, look, if I think they have equally good tape or Senior Bowl or whatever it might be, but then one is the better athlete, for me, that's where you can start to say, okay, I think that could bring you to that player because the upside might be stronger. With all that, look, if they like Tyler Booker and he's their guy at 18, then it's a good pick. We'll see. We'll see what they do, man. We only got less than 30 days now, Brandon, until I'll be on that plane heading out west to meet up with you at SeaTac.
We've got Stuart Scott in the chat, and we will wrap things up here shortly, Clinton. But Stuart is asking, what do you think could be the who pick that shocks everyone? Say the Seahawks stick at number 18 and pick there. What would be a shocking pick for you for our Seahawks?
Give me a second. Let me pull up. Let me pull up a
Is it positionally? Is it? Are you thinking just in terms of a player? One.
Well,
player?
I mean, I'll give one. I do think if Colston Loveland is there, and he may not be, two tight ends might go.
Mm-hmm.
They just might be absolutely in love with the idea of having AJ Barner, having the 2 Michigan guys, having AJ Barner and Colston Loveland. He's a goodish blocker, but he's different. He's not like Tyler Warren in that regard, but he's a damn good tight end. So that could be one for sure. Let me see. Let me just go pull up.
I think I would go at a different Michigan player. I think I would go cornerback Will Johnson. I think that would be one that I don't think corner has been on the radar enough for the Seahawks just because they see Job, they see Reek Woolen, and they think we're good at fans generally think, okay, well, we're good at corner. But I think long term, I wouldn't be shocked. We go cornerback and someone that maybe there's some familiarity with a Michigan guy in Will Johnson.
I'd be shocked there. I think I would be shocked if
we're supposed to be picking shocking ones, Clint. I'm glad I picked one that shocked you.
That does shock me. I know Jahad Campbell's getting a lot of love at this point too, right? So the inside linebacker, and so he's again another Alabama player, and he's an inside linebacker, and lots of people are pounding the table saying, look, he's more than an inside linebacker. He's like a Micah Parsons. He could play out on the edge. He could rush the passer. I'm not convinced. I watched, what am I watching? I'm watching YouTube and watching highlights, but these are his highlights. What I see with Jahad Campbell is I see a very, very good linebacker, And with that, good sense for just stuff in the run, plays the run very, very well, good coverage back. And I see like that he could really understand how to get through like the A gap's kind of great. When I see him kicking outside, he's getting home a couple of times, but to me, it's been like I'm watching like lesser competition. And a lot of times, if he's getting home on the edge, it's just cleanup stuff. And Alabama is just destroying people. And there's a cleanup sack on aisle 8, and he happens to be there. So I just don't buy from just watching some tape. I don't buy Jahad Campbell as this next Micah Parsons shoe-in, because if he was that, he's the first overall pick. And people have him in a range of he can go top 10, he could fall out of the first round. And nobody would be doing that with Micah Parsons 2.0. So I'm not quite there yet, but McDonald might fall in love with it with a linebacker that could potentially do that in the future, Brandon. So that's another one that I think would be a bit of a whoa. After signing Ernest Jones, after drafting Tyrese Knight, did not expect a linebacker at 18, but it's possible.
Amy Holmes in chat saying, Genty would be a surprise to me. Would it be that surprising, Amy, if our general manager, John Schneider, who has notoriously taken running backs in the first and second round year after year after year, were to take another running back, maybe the best one on the board in the first round? Yeah. I maybe I'm with money. I'd be surprised if Genty fell that far.
Right. I don't think he will, but if he did, you'd have to, I think he's one of those players you have to kind of consider, I just don't, he's not going to get to 18. I'll give one more name. I think Tet McMillan from Arizona as a wide receiver is, if they.
Not surprising. That's not a surprising pick.
Well, I mean.
John Schneider taking a receiver in the first round, not surprising.
It's kind of surprising when you need an offensive line, right? But it's because for me, it's like, I think they would think he could be the X replacement, right? And DK's out the building, Tet's in, and he's 6'4". He's not a burner like DK, but he runs well enough, and he's he's a good wide receiver. That'd be surprising to me, at least. I don't want that, by the way. That's not what I want. I think there's a lot.
I don't know if we can take guys who are mock drafted to our Seahawks as our surprise picks, Clinton.
Okay, fine. Yeah, no, I don't.
I would be surprised by guard. That would surprise me if John Schneider actually goes out and does something that he's never done and drafts a guard in the first round. That would surprise me, Clinton.
Oh, Brandon, I think you are onto it, my man. I think you're onto it. So I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.